Here we go. Hey, everybody! Thanks for joining me. Pardon me for the technical glitches, but as Debbie and I were giggling about backstage, is I'm the one with the monkey and the monkey on my shoulder and the cymbals between my knees. I'm managing everything on these podcasts, and that's what bootstrapping is all about, right? My name's Carol Filion. I am your host of Badass Banter, and Badass Banter is a hybrid of group discussion and podcast interviews. So this week is a podcast interview, which means it's streaming live, fingers crossed. And it'll be available for replays on various channels. So when it's a group discussion, however, those aren't recorded, just so you know. We just get on and discuss a hot topic. We're in the moment, we're riffing, we're feeding off each other's energies and just having fun. So as we're going to do today, even though it's recorded, it's all good. So we are now streaming on YouTube, should be streaming in Badass Revolution, the Facebook group, as well as today I've added it to my LinkedIn profile. And well, according to Mission Control here, this should all be happening. So and I felt it was important actually to put it on my LinkedIn profile because I feel this is an important business discussion. So before I get to my guest, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Post your questions in the comments as I'm still getting familiar with this platform, and I'll hopefully see them in the comments in the platform that I'm using. If not, I'll circle back and I'll answer your questions directly in that platform, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. And for those of you, by the way, that don't know me, my name is Carol Filion. As I said, I'm a mindset coach and mentor, and I help women, especially women over 60, reinvent themselves so that they can tap into their decades of wisdom, insights, intuition, knowledge, power, so they can live their most badass lives in their third act. And I do this through one-on-one coaching. I do it through group facilitations and a coaching membership that I'm actually going to be launching in early 2024. So keep an eye open for that. And I also do it through vision board experiences that I call them experiences because they're beyond a workshop, which brings me to my guest today. I'm a graduate of her program. So I will be I'm speaking with Debbi Sluys today. And Debbi is the founder of Dare to Declare. And she's a coach, trainer, and speaker who specializes in helping people expand their personal development for over 30 years and has facilitated and witnessed science. She's as a former child care director, Debbi has studied personal development for over 30 years and has facilitated and witnessed science at work by guiding over 1,000 clients, count them, to identify and declare their vision both online and in person in her Dare to Declare studio. As an adopted child and survivor of child abuse, her mission to support women to declare their truth is her life purpose. Debbi's been featured on many global podcasts in the Corporate Escapist Magazine, shared the virtual stage with, get this, Gabrielle Bernstein, come on, and gets better, was also interviewed by Jack Canfield. Yeah, you got that right. The Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, for his Success TV. She lives in Chatham, Ontario. Please help me welcome to the virtual stage, Debbi Sluys.
Thank you, Carol. I have goosebumps on my own bio.
It's pretty awesome.
Girl, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. You know, sometimes you just need to look back and go, that happened. Like, what the heck? You know, and this is what we're going to talk about, manifestation. So thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here on your badass. I don't talk like that. I don't curse, but I'm going to say badass as much as I can today.
Please do. Please and thank you. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. Now I'm just double checking. Sorry. We are in fact live. I'm so happy. All right. I'm very, very happy right now. So Debbi, so much to cover in the next, well, less than an hour now. So take us to the very beginning of this, because you have grown this business to, it's a going concern. I mean, I'm a graduate of your academy, as a number of other people, but take us to the very beginning. How do you go from being a childcare director to running a global vision board company?
Yeah, so looking back, it's everything that you read in Think and Grow Rich and the Success Principles with Jack Canfield, where I didn't know, I was just following. I'll say just as in meaning unknowingly following my intuition. And it was this inner knowing that I had a sense of dissatisfaction. And actually, Bob Proctor, and you are a big fan and follower of Bob Proctor, says dissatisfaction is the birthplace of creativity. I think that's, or ingenuity. And so I felt dissatisfied, even though our childcare was chosen one of the 7 to pilot this new way of being in the province. I was going around the province and speaking about the story of transformation that occurred at my organization. I was meeting and I was doing workshops with hundreds of educators, and I loved my job in the childcare field. I loved, like you heard in my bio, my purpose and joy was to create a space where children could fully express themselves and create this beautiful childhood. And that, I wanted them to, as an adult, my goal was for them to drive past and go, that's some of my best memories as a kid happened at that place. Like that was what I wanted for children.
Amazing.
And so what I realized, though, that it wasn't about the most modern and most beautiful building. It was about the educator herself. And I did have some males, but mostly females. And I worked with my team was up to 75 when I left. And what I noticed was that many educators came into the field because well-meaning counselors in high school would say to them, oh, you don't know what to do? Well, why don't you go work with kids? And it was sort of like the last stop on the train, where it's like, well, you don't know what else to do. You're not really, maybe your grades aren't good enough for university. Why don't you go to college and why don't you work with kids? And so they were coming in already, not maybe necessarily passionate, not really having a clear purpose. And so I was seeing burnout. I was seeing a lack of confidence, really seeing a lack of direction and focus. So combine that with my own internal nudge to say, you're meant for something bigger. You just don't know what it is. And what I did was I went and had a photo shoot done. Now, any banker, if I would have gone in with my business plan, which I didn't have one, would have been like, get out of my office. Stop wasting my time. Like, this isn't even any plan because it's not even written down. Like, I was so just following my intuition. So I just paid one of the best photographers in our area to do a photo shoot that I didn't know what the photos were going to be for. But here's the other beautiful thing. What I know now, and as Bob Proctor teaches, is that, we all have a vision board. It's what we look in every morning when we brush our teeth. It's our mirror. Right. Like, our self-image essentially determines who we become. And unknowingly, or inner knowingly, I should say, so not consciously, but going from the subconscious inner knowing, I knew this, and I went, and when I saw the pictures, I was blown away, because when I look in the mirror, the story I make up is she's a mom, she's a childcare director, she's a wife. But when I looked through the lens, what was coming back at me with those images, I was like, that girl's a rock star. She's making a big difference in the world. And I peeked into what is now my reality. But that was only 6 years ago. So it was merely an idea. I discovered Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, the original godfather of vision boards, and the rest really is history.
Amazing. And giant plug here for branding photographers, because seriously, for those people that will just kind of skip over that part, it's so important, because I totally get what you're saying about getting those pictures back and going, that's the one, that's the image, that's the person that I want to step into. And I think you told me earlier that you told the photographer, I want to be that girl. And she said,
you are. And but I didn't believe it yet. But
Right.
This is the beautiful thing, is when you can borrow someone else's belief of what they're reflecting back to you. And I thought, is it true? Is that possible? Is that even possible? But that already gave me confidence then to show up and start my business. So yeah.
Yeah. And it must be true because look, there's concrete proof. That's me, right? I mean, I know we do play games with ourselves. That old programming comes back and goes, whatever. Yeah, knock it off. Right. So I know that you had shared this part of your story before, but you broke from the traditional job and decided to strike out, and then COVID hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
So
oh blank moment.
that's right. SH little dollar sign
Yeah.
T.
Yeah. That is correct.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the pivot that had to
Yeah, the
take place.
pivot. Yeah, that became the word of the pandemic, the pivot. But what I also just want to say is that sometimes, coaches or programs online will say, quit your job and make 100K a month, blah, blah, blah. Like there's big promises. And what I want to say is that, yes, hindsight, it was only 6 years ago that I decided to even begin the company, but it took me 2 years to fully step out and go on my own. And so that decision was made, and I love giving these provocations because they're so powerful, these questions. The question that woke me up out of this slumber, well, there was 3 things. One, the question was, what's the price you're paying for not following your dream? And I thought, whoa, it's really high, because I had an episode at work where, due to stress, I had now I have a little spot on my brain, like half my face fell. I lost my speech. I was in a meeting and my supervisors were like, are you okay, Deb? And as I'm all slurry, I'm like, don't call the ambulance. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you may not call the ambulance. And so, after I came to, I'm like, just, kick my butt. Don't let me boss you around, even when I'm like slurring. Like, oh my goodness. But, bless their hearts. Like, they just wanted to take care of me. And it was so shocking. But that had happened. And so when I heard, what's the price? I thought, the price is my mental health, my physical health, and I get to do this. But then the second question was, what's the price those around you are paying for you not following your dream? And then I thought about my bird. Yeah, that one hit me in the heart. So if it's not going to be about you, which if that wasn't enough, the final shove was to say, people are waiting for you. And I thought about my daughters, who are both entrepreneurs. They've gone back into childcare now, but one had just had a baby, and my new grandson. And, I'm just going all over the place here, but like last Friday, he invited his Jammy, that's what he calls me, not grandma, Jammy, to be his special person for his Christmas lunch. Aww. I got to do that. In my previous role, I would have had to book that like so many weeks out. Like, I could just zip
right,
to
if there was no conflict. If somebody else was off, then you might not have been able to do it, right?
Or there'd be a crisis, and I'd have to go. Like that happened quite regularly in childcare because I was kind of the last stop on. So it was just so amazing. So I thought, what's the price? So I did, as you said, I gave my notice to my board of directors. I'd been there for 30 years. So I don't know if you've lived anywhere for 30 years. I haven't. My husband and I have moved like 9 times. But even in those 9 times, you accumulate so much crap. Like where did all, and so I had 3 offices, because I would set up an office at each one of my locations. And like, there's so much stuff. So I need to get 6 months. So, and then I had to hire my successor as the director. So that took a process. And as you said, I gave my notice in January 2020. Now, one other little aside is I gave myself a power word, which I had been doing for a couple of years already prior to that. My word for the year, I had decided in 2020, pre-knowledge of the COVID, was generous. And
oh, wow,
that word saved my butt. I tell you, like, I every time the health unit would call with new regulations, like in Canada, I'm sure anywhere else too, like things just kept changing. Because remember when we thought the pandemic was going to be like 3 weeks? Like
Oh my
nobody
gosh.
had
Right.
any idea. And then working with
Yep.
children, so we had to like make sure that the water play tables, we didn't use those. And then we had to figure out the spatial distancing, like all the stuff. We ended up shutting down, but then we were planning to reopen again. So that was so stressful, but I kept using that word, coming back to that word. What would my most generous self do? And that just brought me up above the line. I also hired a coach because I knew I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, that I was going to be leaving. And so I didn't know what a niche was. I didn't know what a lead magnet was. I didn't know what a funnel was. I mean, those were things, funnels were things that you put, to put things into a bottle carefully. I didn't know what that was. And niche, I didn't, like, that just sounds fancy in French. I don't know. So I was like, so it was really great. But my last final project was create an online workshop. And I'd only to date been doing them in person. And I was like, what am I going to do? How can I do vision boards? That's such a tactile thing, that real paper. Like I have a beautiful studio where we have hundreds of magazines and people have the space spread out. And I thought, are people really going to sit for 6 hours online? Like, what am I going to do? And this is when Zoom was just becoming a thing. Like, here we are, like you're streaming on 3 different platforms on StreamYard, and like, oh my goodness, like we were like, wow, this is magical, Zoom place. But anyway, 65 people showed up. I created 10 paid clients in that, and it was based on that word, a power word workshop.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, exactly. This is something. So I knew I was on the right track. And then I realized, all right, I'm thinking way too small, because prior to that, I'd only ever done vision board workshops in my studio, which is beautiful, and maybe some in different offices. Like I'd worked for real estate companies with their real estate, with their agents. I'd gone to financial planners, with the educators. So I had worked other places, but most, like, all just in person. And all of a sudden I thought, I don't just get to serve people in Ontario, Canada. This is a global stage. So that's where that pivot happened, that I realized I could take what I do in person and it would translate online. And then, I began to offer them in my next coaching program, which was a high-level mastery program. And people that all of a sudden I'm talking to people that call me Debs, like people from the UK. I don't know why they say Deb is Debs, but it's plural for some reason. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know. Yeah, you're right.
They're like, hey, Deb. I don't know why. But I'm like, okay. And I'm like, excuse me, pardon, can you slow down? I don't know what you're saying. But it was just like all these different accents and time zones and currencies. And it was like this whole new world. Like, it was just awesome. And I was so excited to know that this would translate. And then they gave me feedback to say, Deb, like most of us as coaches, our high ticket is one-to-one coaching. We do like the low level free workshop, we do group coaching, and then the high ticket is one-to-one. But you're disrupting all of that. Like your main thing is workshops. And we've never seen a product like this that aligns with what we're doing in our one-to-one and in our group. Like, do you realize that? And I didn't, because I was in a void. I'd been working in a void. I'd just been working in my little Ontario, Canada workshop, almost treating it like a hobby, really, with my other job. And then now I was like, this has got some legs. Like, where could this go? Yeah.
Right. And it is so powerful. So that really was kind of the spark of the business in a box, essentially.
It was. Yeah.
It wasn't just a question of serving people by having them create their vision board. Now it was actually handing over part of their business model as coaches, because I know that's what it did for me. So it was, this is super, super fascinating, because you really don't know, right? This is, I think this is beyond the Ross Geller with the couch and the stairway pivot, right? This is, you know what I'm saying? Pivot, pivot. This is going from, oh crap, to, oh wow, right? Because what's the saying that when a door closes, God opens a window? This is really where this all went. And I love that you used intuitive nudge, or the nudge, right? And that when we do listen to those intuitive nudges, it then more come on our path, right? Because I mean, since then, you started with this group that went, hey, you could do more than this. Now you've got how many Academy graduates?
42 and it'll be 3 years in April.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
From 5 different countries.
And it's a phenomenal program, and it's still going. You're still certifying vision board facilitators and trainers that around the world. Yeah, yeah. So for me, and this is like a serious plug here, because this is for me, it's been game changing for my coaching business, because when it comes to coaching, we like to talk about setting goals and to, you know, and what to do with and next steps and everything else. But you can't set the goal if you don't have the vision, right? As you're setting goals, we're all taught to write our goals down, but it's not the writing that our subconscious really takes in, right? Yes, it activates the right brain when we're handwriting and instead of typing and that kind of stuff. That's fine. But talk to us about the images and the importance of that when you're creating a vision board.
Well, we process images 60 times more quickly than words. So just think about when you get an email and you open it up and it's got like a paragraph of script, but then halfway down it's got a video or it's got like a meme. Like your eye immediately goes to that versus, and then you go back and scroll up to the top. Well, this is the same thing, is that with the vision board process, we've optimized the use of images. So one of the protocols with a Dare to Declare board is that we ask people to minimize their use of words, because they don't provoke the same kind of emotion as you referred to as words do. Words are just more one-dimensional, if you want to say it like that, whereas images are more three-dimensional, where you can sort of jump into the picture. You know, you've seen those TV shows where they kind of just go and they get sucked into the TV. Well, that's kind of the idea, where you get sucked into the image and you can imagine yourself, whether it be a vacation picture of sitting on the beach, and you can feel the breeze on your face. You can feel the sun warming your hair, and you can feel your toes in the sand. Like, you can experience all the sensations just looking at the image. Whereas if you see the word beach, it takes a lot more to conjure up the feeling of what that word is describing. And so what we want the board to solicit feelings, because feelings then, as you know, within the body, like it, you know, they show up. Like if you're on an interview, I used to get like, or if I had an angry parent, here I'm just telling my stories here, but you know, I would have a parent come in, like I ended up wearing turtlenecks to work because like poker giveaway, like my neck would be red. Yeah. Because I would be all like poker face, like meanwhile my neck went like totally giving me away, you know. But that's what our body does, is it responds to stimulus, to what our thoughts are. And so when you're processing the image and it's positive and it's what is your desire, your body's responding, which means then you're vibrating. And actually, the law of attraction, if anybody here listening is, you know, you've heard a law of attraction, it's actually law of vibration. So that makes more sense in terms of even science and what we know in nature, and how when something's vibrating, it's attracting things to it. So we then are vibrating and at a higher frequency and then attracting to us. I went way off there. What was your question?
No, you were right. You were bang on, because I was talking
Okay.
about the importance of images too on the subconscious. So no, you are spot on, because
Okay.
we know that, that we have our conscious mind, our subconscious mind, and then, what actually controls the behavior. The behavior is the secondary cause of the results. The primary cause is actually what's in our subconscious. And when it gets into our subconscious, it's our conscious mind, our thinking mind, that, yes, I can accept or reject, but the subconscious doesn't know. It can't reject, so it can only accept. So you could be feeding it what you think is a lie. Yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire. Yeah. So, but if you get emotionally involved with that idea, and you have a picture of what that looks like, and you're in that picture, and you've gotten emotionally involved with it, hello. That's the Jim Carrey story of him writing himself a check for $10 million, and actually seeing it and feeling it and embodying that. Right? Because by the time the date hit, he was in that position. So, I mean, and on a smaller scale, if I can share my story about the power of those images. Last week, I spoke at your summit, and leading up to that, the 2 weeks prior to that, I was a monumental poop show. Full transparency here. I was going through I was going through an existential crisis. Why am I here? What am I doing? Nothing makes sense. Blah, 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 blah. All the voices, the old stuff coming through, right? And I have a vision board that I created in May this year. And I look at it every morning. I look at it every night, but for some reason I was kind of blocking all kinds of stuff out in those 2 weeks. And then finally I looked at my board and went, oh my goodness. There were 3 images on that board that stood out in a big way. One was the image of a hand writing in a book. And I love your magazine. That was from your magazine. I love the magazine because the images are really left up to your interpretation, what that means. And for me, that image represented my writing a book. The other image was a woman at a microphone. Well, what am I doing now? This is episode number 4. And I'll explain the other one in a second here. And the last one was a woman sitting in front of 2 monitors, about 18 people. And to me, the interpretation was one to many, my impacting several lives at the same time. And so last week I spoke at your summit. That was the second summit since I did my board. And the handwriting in the book was my involvement, my writing a book. Well, I wrote a chapter in a book that was just released about 3 weeks ago called Curtains Wide Open. So I can say in all honesty that I am a published author. All of that would not have happened had it not been for that vision board, for those images getting imprinted. So now I'm thinking, I maybe need to edit just in case there's something there that I don't really want. What if it comes true? Because I think you're the one who joked about, if you're not serious about having a dog, make sure you don't have a dog on your vision board.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's the impact, right? You don't realize it until after, right? You kind of look back and go, whoa, hang on a second. This stuff is powerful. Right?
For sure.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, can I offer you something about, I had a recent aha around that, because manifestation, and I think, at least from my understanding, it used to be where it was more of a ta-da. And I love ta-das. Like, if I could get a ta-da every time I walk in the room, that would be fun.
That's what dogs are for. They give us a ta-da every time.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yes. So I love it, Tada, but I thought that was how things showed up on your vision board. And it's more what you just described, where you are reflecting and you're saying, that happened, and it just slid in. It feels like it was like under the wire, like it just floated in, and now this is my new normal. Why? Because of all the things that you teach, Carol, around the conscious thought with repetition, affirmations becomes the new paradigm. So it replaces the old one that says, I'm not good enough, this isn't going to happen, the poopy monument, whatever you called it, that is out the window. Instead, it's the new confident version that you saw in your photo shoot. She's now running the show on the subconscious level. And it's like, of course I'm running a kick-ass, badass podcast. Of course I'm on and requested to be on summits. Of course my book is published and being read by so many people and being sold at the back of the room. Of course it is, because I declared it. And so it is. And it's interesting how, I've been teaching this stuff, I talk about it all day long. And I just had that awareness around the connection between manifestation and paradigms, and how it's like a, born again, like we talk, religious, like it's a Christian, it's a born again kind of paradigm where it's now just completely new, but it's just responding always consistently now in that way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think probably the biggest piece that I got from that realization, once I made the realization, the reason I was in that poop show for a couple of weeks is because we're getting close to the end of the year. December, it's always kind of a challenging month for me. Yeah. And for a lot of people, actually, even though there are the holidays and that kind of thing, it can represent a lot of stress and there's loss. We're going to be, maybe it's the first Christmas without a loved one and so on and so forth. And for me, it was like all of that, plus getting to the end of the year and the old paradigm, the old program going, and what'd you do this year? What'd you do? How you doing? Madge, exactly. My alter ego, Madge, Scotch drinking, cigar smoking, get off my lawn, Madge,
Oh, man.
So, Madge was having a field day. And then when I came to that realization, immediately, my mood lifted, but in a very concrete way. It wasn't in I'm in a good mood now, but it'll go back. It was like, no, this is a shift, an absolute shift, because Madge, this is what I did this year. And that wouldn't have been possible had I not put a vision board together. So when people are questioning whether or not there's any value or the power of vision boards, I mean, boom, mic drop. That was the mic drop for me, and seeing it. And like you said, and it kind of just sort of slips in, la, 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 like, oh yeah, because that's the way it's always been. No, it hasn't. This is cool. I'm liking this 2.0 thing, So what are the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to vision boards?
Well, I think I wrote down 5 things that I was thinking about, and there's more. But I guess the first thing is that people forget what it's for. So it's not just like a paint party. It's not just a girl get together. It's not a piece of art. Actually, some of my most challenging clients are artists and interior designers, because they want their piece to be something that's aesthetically pleasing and fits in with their furniture. Well, how beige and boring is that, right? Like, that's not what we want our life for. This is to represent your dreams. So more than likely, it's going to be colorful. And it is a hard-working tool. One of the most important tools that's in your backpack, in your repertoire for your mindset. And so give it the respect that it deserves, which means, I think, I didn't write this down. I'll give a bonus one. I was going to give 5, but 6 is people don't give it enough time to create it. So people think that they can make their vision board in an hour or a couple hours. Well, not in the Dare to Declare process. So Carol runs workshops, and it's, I say 6 hours. I joke. I did a retreat this past summer with some of my colleagues from the Canfield retreat. And then we did another retreat. I think we were going on 18 hours. Like, I am like, ladies, like, we gotta wrap this up. Like, this is crazy. But it was so good. Like, it was like, the workshop that never ends. It goes on and on. Like, forever. But it was,
and it could. It's so meaty.
We had such incredible conversations, and they were so intentional with every image that they chose. So I think that's a mistake where people don't give themselves enough time. And I would say, if you're thinking about doing this, reach out to Carol. Well, let me do a plug. Carol, when's your next workshop? I'm putting you on the spot.
I have a virtual one, actually, that's starting January 9th. So, and I'm calling it a masterclass because I'm presenting it over 3 weeks, 2 hours a week. And that way we can really dig deep, peel the layers, really get into what it is. What do you love? What lights you up? What's your bliss? Love that word. Yeah. So yeah, January 9th. I'll have the link in the comments after we're done.
Awesome. And one's not better than the other, but they're just different. But I do love the ones that are spaced out, because what you're doing is you're allowing the law of attraction to work in between the sessions, because now you're focused on this process that Carol's teaching you. And then it's like you'll start to see evidence of that in the week before the next session, and then as you complete it. So anyways, okay, so that, give yourself 6 hours. The other thing is, a mistake people do is they put money on their board. It's a big one. And in fact, I purchased, when I was creating my own magazine, I purchased some other ones online just because I wanted to see what the competition was and also get some ideas and just see if it was something. I actually, with most ideas, I get this like comparison thing, saboteur, whatever. And I think, somebody's already doing it. But then I buy it and I'm like, well, not quite. That's not exactly how I would do it. And most of them have money. And so the reason I suggest not to have money on your board is because, for a couple of reasons. One is most people don't have a great relationship with money. I have found very few people that I've connected with. One man, you can write this down. His name is Ken Honda. He wrote the book Happy Money. I met him this summer. He's like the guru in Japan around personal development, but he has a great relationship with money, but most people don't. So you don't want something on there that makes you confused or that you have a negative feeling towards. But the other is that it is simply the passageway through to the emotion we were talking about earlier with those images. It's like, it's the funds that's going to provide for you to have the home on the beach or to have this dream job in life. So money. Secondly, people put goals. And you were talking earlier about goals and how goals don't have the same emotion that vision does, and vision conjures up. Goals are important though. And you know what? I love talking to people and learning new things. I spoke with a lady this week, and she said she likes the idea, or maybe I put this together, but she talked about self-leadership. So thinking about goals and shifting the language around it to self-leadership. I was like, oh, that feels so much more feminine. The goals to me feel like it's got masculine energy, but self-leadership feels like it's empowering and it's still directional, but I am in control. I don't know. Just as an
I'm
aside,
the boss of me. Yeah. It's like, I'm the boss of me. Whereas goals, a lot of people have a very negative, visceral reaction just to that word, that it's like, goals, no, no. But if I don't meet them, then I'm a failure.
Right.
They attach that negative thing. Anyways, but I digress. Continue, please.
Yeah.
What else?
Cool. Yeah. So vision and then self-leadership, let's say that. So, and then the other is that people clutter up their board. And I don't know why. If you go on Pinterest, most vision boards, and even like sometimes celebrities, I won't name names, but they actually are connected to a beautiful woman who's her name starts with O and ends with an H. She has talk show and magazine and everything. Anyway, yeah, Oprah. Anyways, somebody was working with Oprah and they were making it all cluttery. And and you know what else they did? So here's another freebie. They put the word COVID on their board, but with an X through it. I'm like, no. So I wrote to them. I'm like, it's on my heart. I'm like, take that off. Like,
seriously,
take COVID off your and it was actually Oprah's best friend. What's her name?
Gail.
Sort of the
Gail.
Gail.
Gail's
the one who actually made the board. And I saw a few weeks later, on her social media, she had COVID. I'm like, well, you manifested that. Like, so anyway, this stuff is powerful. So don't put on your board what you don't want. Plus, leave space. Don't clutter it up. Because heaven's first law is order. Think about nature. There's like every time we have a new season, it's not like all of a sudden, it's like it just all of a sudden skips spring. Well, sometimes in Ontario, but it usually goes, right? It's from winter to spring to summer. I know April is like 80, like what? But yeah, we have the 4 seasons, and that's how nature is, and that there's always a gestation period for everything. Babies take 9 months typically to be born, and same thing in nature. And so think about that when you're making your board, that's not cluttered, that you have a sense of order, that you leave space. And again, Carol can help you with all of that. And lastly, this is one I don't talk about very often, but don't overshare it. I think especially younger generation has grown up with social media, and they put everything on social media. Well, I also have a podcast, and I recently interviewed Brian Proctor. He's Bob Proctor's son. And I asked if he would talk about his vision board. And he said, I'd be happy to talk about it, but I don't want to show it. I was like, good for him. I love that. Right. And he said, yes, you do? And I said, yes, it's a very intimate, expression of your life, your dreams. The only people that deserve to see it are people that will be as excited about it as you are. That's probably maybe a handful of people that are in your life. Because if somebody's going to question your choices, make any kind of snide remark or judgment, even lift an eyebrow, you know how that is, that energy, like, right? You're like, they don't deserve to see it.
Right.
So don't overshare.
Yeah. And to kind of get a better perspective on it, when they do raise the eyebrow or they have the comments, it's because it's shining the light back on them and maybe what they're not doing. So, but we think it's about us. It's not, it's about them. So, if by mistake, while somebody's going to the washroom and they happen to stare at your board and then they make a snide comment about it, shake it off, because it's not about you. It's not about your board. It's about them. This is, you're reaching for a higher area that they're not quite comfortable stepping out of their little comfort zone to even think about. So, right. It's one Love way that, to shake it off. Shake it off, baby. Shake it off. That's right. My board. And what are you doing? You were going to the washroom. What are you doing?
Yeah. I can help you want to go on the
medicine cabinet too. Anyway, so is that the last one, is don't overshare, or is there another one?
I think that's
Okay. So then let's roll back to what you were talking about earlier, about how when you were told that, hey, this is like a business in a box, essentially. Like, so can someone make money with vision boards?
Yes, they can. And how do I know that? Because I've done it. And so this is, what's so powerful about the work that Carol and I do, is that it's not like we're just talking heads over here and then our life doesn't demonstrate it. It's like the evidence is in our own lives. And as she said, like, you know, you're feeling like crap, but you pull yourself up. You can't fake that. Like, you're doing the work yourself, and so am I. And so when I graduated from that mastery program, and I had those colleagues tell me this was really great, one of the things that happened was the owner of the coaching company, who worked with thousands of coaches, again, I'd really put him on a pedestal, he asked me to coach him. And I was like, oh no. And my mastermind group, that's another story, but yeah, they are like, you know, he puts his pants on one leg at a time kind of thing. And so I coached him powerfully. And actually, he offered me a partnership in the program, like with their coaching program, which just ended this past year. But yeah, it was really, really amazing. But that was January. So this is going on. This will just be now coming up on 3 years. And so that would have been January 2021. And I wanted to replace my $60,000 I was making as a childcare director. And so I did the math. Hurts. Yeah. And it was like, okay, 5K, 5K a month is what I'll need to make. And so I put it on a piece of paper, and I made an affirmation. I'm so happy and grateful now that I earn 5K a month. And I think I might have added something about supporting clients with vision boards. It is done, and I love it. And I repeated that. And that first month I hit 7K. And I was like, whoa, well, that's amazing. Boom. And this is not yet doing the academy. This is offering vision boards, vision board workshops. This is doing them in corporate settings. This is doing additional speaking around leadership, because I was a leader of a multi-site organization, and the visioning piece together. So that's where, you know, I met my goal. I surpassed my goal. And so, like you were talking about earlier, Carol, I love that you said, you know, you looked past and said, this is what I accomplished this year. And you've already within that set your goal now for 2024. And actually the book Lead the Field with Earl Nightingale, this is what he talks about, is before the goal's even accomplished, set the next one. And this is what I did was I was like, okay, well, if I can do 7, I wonder if I can do 10. So then in February of 2021, so it was only a month later, I set my goal at 10. I hit 12. Nice. And I was like, wow, if I can hit 12, I wanted to hit 20. Now it took me till April. I hit 20. So can you make money using vision boards? 100%. Now, you can do it as a standalone business, but what we've seen the best results for our clients is when they wrap it around what they're already doing. And we have clients in our academy that are event planners, who are yoga instructors, who are dance studio owners, network marketing, like with oils. Anyone that essentially is in sales, because sales is imagination. I just saw this the other day. It was a sponsored ad, and it said, in order to sell, you, like, what you're selling is your client's desire. Like, they need to have to want what you have. So you're turning up the dial on the desire. Well, that's what you're doing with helping people create a vision for what's possible. Right. And so almost every single business has vision incorporated. Now, some is going to be more of a natural fit, but you know, I drive a Porsche. And again, if you would have told me I would be driving a Porsche as a not-for-profit childcare director in Canada, I would have said, I don't think so. But
Matt would have had a thing or two to say about that.
Things coming in my head and they're not good. That Madge needs to.
Madge.
Like, what are you selling, girlie? That's what she'd say.
And another thing, doll. Anyways, I digress.
So I all of a sudden had this idea. I was following my Porsche dealership online, and I saw that they had a fundraiser in their showroom. And it was like, ding. And I thought, what do people put on their vision boards? They put luxury cars. So I found out who's the marketing director of Porsche. And I rang her up. Here's the interesting thing about the universal laws. she has been doing vision boards herself personally for years. Big fan of vision boards. Has seen the results. She spent, I bet you, about 20 minutes telling me about all the things that have manifested in her life personally by using a vision board. I said, well, have I got a great idea for you? Let's do vision boards in your showroom. Imagine how fun it would be to have a vision board experience surrounded by Porsche cars. And she's like, oh, we could bring in more women. Like that would be a really, because, you know, it's a demographic we're not reaching. So like you wouldn't maybe necessarily think that's a natural fit for vision boarding, but it truly fits into anywhere that a business is offering a client. But, you know, not even business. I was talking to someone too where, a gentleman, and he was in a very serious car accident. He lost one sight in one of his eyes, and it just permanently changed his body. And he said to me, do you know how valuable a vision board would have been in my recovery? He said, wow. I just looked at the end of my bed, at my hospital bed, laying in there at nothing. Imagine having images of recovered, who you get to be in recovery. Now, he had to just do that in his brain, and he talks about that. He says that's what got him through. And he is very fit, and he does exercise programs for seniors, like chair exercises and like low impact, because that's for his own body, but he now serves other people in the same way. He's written a book, he's a speaker, but that was all his imagination. But he said to me, I wish I would have had a vision board, and that could have been put at the end of my bed.
Wow.
Like there's so many applications for it.
Oh, absolutely. And that answers the question that I had here. Yeah. Who are they for? It's for everybody. It's for everybody. It doesn't necessarily, I know we're streaming to a business platform, and yes, it's important for corporations. I think you've highlighted that, you know, because, and maybe even expand a little bit on that. What are the advantages of companies and organizations offering vision board workshops to their team members, for their team members? Let's dig into that a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a number of them this past year. I just did a lunch and learn recently with just our little asset of that power word I talked about earlier, which is about 90 minutes. I shortened it to 1 hour. I gave them some exercises up front. They had 30 people streaming in live. We had 30 people online, 20 people live, and it was just a really great event. And yeah, so there's that, but then there's also like a full day retreat. So I've done multiple ones of those. Most recent in October was 35 educators at a retreat center. So their workplace took them away for the weekend, and I was the main show, I guess, for one of the days. But it really makes it easy for the organizers that they don't have to create content. Like I show up with everything. As you talked about the magazine, the foam core boards and scissors and glue, I just pop it up. All they have to do is have their people come. One of the things that I mentioned when I was in Sudbury earlier this year was, and it was a group, my largest group to date was 125, and it was a large multi-site organization as well. And I kept stressing to the employees, do you realize how progressive your employer is? In the fact that they're not having you work on the company's vision, which is important as well. There's a place for that. But you're working on your vision. Your employer recognizes and wants to let you know how important you are, that you're not just a number. We see you, we hear you, we're giving you this time and space to focus just on you. Like, think about how that makes the employee feel. And when they're telling others what their employer did for them by giving them a day to focus on themselves. And, you know, as a leader, I remember when my organization grew, like it 3x, because the government threw a whole lot of money at us. This is going back about 20 years ago, and we had to grow really, really quickly. And at the same time, the Canadian school system was hiring early child educators to go into kindergarten. And I lost a huge capacity of my most senior, mature, high-level ECEs to the school board because I couldn't compete with the pay. And I was freaking out. I became militant, like kind of crazy. Like I was so stressed. And I remember one day, like crying, and I had another employee come and tell me that she was leaving. And I decided, and this is before I knew this work, but it was just intuitive. I decided to flip the script. And that day I told myself, we grow leaders here. And I thought, instead of fighting it, that I'm losing leaders here, I'm growing them. And I'm growing them so that I expect them to leave, because they're now going to be my colleagues. And that's exactly what happened. And I would look around the boardroom table at the leadership meetings that we would have, and I'd be like, oh, half of these are my former employees. How awesome is that? And so just got to feel like I'm building capacity on such a bigger level when I got to do that. So that's what these employers are doing, is that they're really going from a higher level, that they're not focused on the scarcity, they're seeing in the bigger picture. But also, who doesn't want to work for an organization that cares so deeply about their employees and gives them time to focus on themselves and their vision to set up their goals? It's really impressive and amazing.
Absolutely. And it attracts a certain caliber of team member, right? When you see someone that leaves an organization, but they go on to something great, but that was developed where they were, then, it's like, hey, I want to go work for them. They, and so you've got a caliber, instead of just somebody walking through the door and going, well, I don't really know what I want to do, but if you want, if you want to hire me, like somebody where they're not going to be lit up by the work, but this is you're going to have somebody walking through your door coming for an interview that is absolutely lit up by the prospect of working for you, because you do this kind of emotional investment, if you will, that or professional development investment in each of there's a line, and I know I'm going to butcher it, but I'm a big fan of Ted Lasso's, and there's a scene where one of the characters has to leave their job for something better, and the person they're talking to says, a good mentor kind of figures you're going to leave. A great mentor expects you to. And that, I think you've just kind of encapsulated that in the way you've just described it. And that's really where those are the companies that really get a lot out of vision board workshops in their retreats. Like you said, it takes away the pressure too from, hey, it's one day for the organizers that they don't have to worry about it. Like, nope, this is awesome. I don't have to order lunch. Awesome.
Yep, exactly. Bring the people, set up the space, cater lunch, and I got the rest. And so do you, Carol. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we are at the top of the hour. There's still so much more that we could be talking about, but if anybody has any questions, by all means, pop them in the comments, because we'll be following that and we'll be answering that. Just tag either myself or Deb on your comments, and we're happy to answer that. But this has been such a treat. I know you and I have been working together for a while now, but I wanted the opportunity to be able to show what you do, what vision boards are about, the importance of these images, and how, the imprint that it makes and the power that it really has in our lives. And you've got a free gift as well, right? For the listeners, and I'll put that in, that link in.
Yeah. The e-guide.
The ultimate habits from manifesting.
So it's a PDF. It's a 10-point e-guide to 10 habits to create your best life. So as we talked about those, real practical things that you can do. So thanks for watching, Annie. I hope you enjoyed this, and feel free to stay connected with us. We'd love that.
Yeah. That's awesome. So this is great. Thank you again, Deb. I really, really appreciate this. And everybody have an amazing rest of your day, and keep your vision alive, baby.
Happy New Year.
All right. And Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. You bet. Take care.